Welcome back to Sci-Fi Fantasy Read Along. Hey Yule, hey Phil, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing well.
Oh, good. Good grammar police.
It's a deep subject.
Hey, well, I'm doing great. I'm actually really excited about the closure of this book. So,
Ooh, I am excited about that.
it was good. It was good. It ended well.
Yule disagrees with you.
I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of had a problem with the ending. I know.
I was
But we'll
jazzed
get
about
into
it. We'll get into it. I was jazzed about the ending because I had no idea where this book was going, and I was pretty excited about the way it ended. So let's just start off with my excitement.
All right. No, that's good because maybe it will clue me into something I wasn't thinking about.
I don't think so, Yule. I think you got it. All right, so today we are going to be discussing, our final episode is going to be discussing chapters 46 to 49. That is the end of Shadows Linger, the end of the second book of the Black Company.
Which pretty much has been a really good book, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, I've had a
like
good time.
Shadows Linger. Yeah.
Chapter 46, Medenville, Trouble. So Raven's tracking party, which includes Croker, One Eye. Who's all in Raven's tracking party?
Ravens.
Raven is being tracked by
Oh, I got you. I see what you're
Silent.
saying. One Eye. Croker, I guess.
Well, obviously.
Kingpin
Asa and Shed.
and Asa and
Asa and
Shed.
Shed and Kingpin. Okay.
I think it's 6.
All right. So Raven's tracking party is leaving the inn after a delicious breakfast. They ended up staying there. I don't know. I had forgotten that they stayed overnight at that inn, but I guess they did.
They
couldn't
figure
go
they
back to
have
Medenville.
what? They're like, they've burned 2 days plus, and they have
2
4
and
days
some.
total before the
Right.
lady gets there.
Right. The lady and the Taken. Or maybe just the Taken? I don't know what they think is going to happen.
Well, I think Croker already has it in mind that the lady's on her way, and the lady may be with the Taken, but through previous conversations or innuendos that they've had together, he was of the opinion, Croker was of the opinion that the lady was on her way. And the lieutenant knew that in Medenville, and he's like, all right, well, she's going to be here in 4 days. Worst case scenario, she's going to be here in 4 days. And so that was their timeline. Is that right?
Right. Because 4 days was how long it took them on ship to get there in the best of times. You know, no waves or anything like that.
No waves.
Well, no. What would it be?
Optimal wind.
Optimal wind. Is
tailwind.
what I mean. Yeah, that's right. You don't want waves going in the other direction, right?
That's true.
That's what I meant. No waves to contend.
You can tell Yule was in the Navy.
I'm gonna bite my tongue because I had a great joke.
I went on a whale thing one time. You know, when you go to watch whales in the ocean.
Whale watching expedition
watching.
or whatnot.
And I
thought he
yarked
meant
all
whale
over
hunting.
the place. I didn't hunt, no. I yarked all over the place. It was horrible.
Oh yeah.
I did not like it at all. Not
You
used to
can't
the waves.
drink. You can't drink any alcohol before going on a boat.
Oh no, this was I was a kid.
Yeah.
Bleh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So the party that includes Croker, the people who are tracking Raven, they leave in the morning after their breakfast. They're only a half mile down the road when One Eye says, "You know, we're gonna have to go and kill them."
He doesn't say it exactly like that, but that's, to paraphrase, that's exactly what he says.
That is the information that Croker understood from what he said. I'm just paraphrasing to keep it lively.
Yeah, well, Shed and One Eye also understood it, and
Asa
Asa, I'm
didn't.
sorry, shit.
Asa didn't.
No, Asa thought I said One
He's
Eye.
like, "What are they going
I'm
to
an idiot.
do? What are they going to do?"
And Croker lied, and he said, sorry. Croker.
Wow. Jesus, both
I'm
of you.
getting my names
I
confused.
said Shed and One Eye.
Yeah.
I know.
And I meant Shed and Asa. Wasn't there a line, though, about Asa thinking that he was going to be done in by them anyway?
Well, he's already
That's-
paranoid, but what I was trying to say is that Croker lied to Asa and said that One Eye went back to cast a spell on them and make them forget. And it's called this a lifelong spell.
A lifelong quiet spell.
Well, he's gonna cast a spell on him.
Yeah. And he's going to rub them out. And it's really interesting because that Otto had like almost no conscience whatsoever, but even Otto didn't go along. One Eye went back by himself to apparently kill the other people.
Cut the thread.
Yep. Because they were worried
they were
about...
gone.
Yeah, they were wrong. They were worried about the Taken following him. They're like, well, do we really need to worry about that? And they're like, look, we found it. And it wasn't that hard. So we need to stop this now. And the truth is, I with that much at stake, with the White Rose at stake, collateral damage to rub out an innkeeper and his family and all the other travelers.
And then you start to become as black as the lady.
Hey, that's a black world.
I can't help that. I mean, I think the goal is to become grayer and then whiter, and not. I mean, whatever. There's no point.
Hey, the ends justify the means.
So an hour later, One Eye shows up. He catches back up, and he says that they've all ditched everybody at the end. The overweight proprietor, his wife and children, all their animals and horses and dogs. They all fled into the forest, thinking that they were going to be killed.
I think it's hilarious they took all of the farm animals with them. All of them.
Well, you don't leave that stuff behind. That's your livelihood.
No. I think it goes back to when Croker gave the threat. False threat, but he gave the threat that your cows would like go dry up, your pigs would get trichinosis or something, like basically everything would suffer. And so he probably took everything, including his storage of wine. I have no idea, but he took all of his animals with him because yes, they are his livelihood, but Croker did threaten him with making his cows dry up and so on and so forth.
Great. All right, so 5 hours later, the party reaches the edge of Medenville, and they can sense trouble immediately. There's a little bit of smoke in the air, a pall of smoke, as it were. Croker sends Kingpin and Asa out, get information. And if Kingpin is the one that normally is real slow, he likes to dog it everywhere he goes, but he's back in like 2 minutes, and Croker's like, wow, no lollygagging.
Mm-hmm.
This is important, obviously.
It's like he got off his horse and talked to somebody like right next to the road.
He was gone for 2 minutes, and Asa was gone for 3. And Asa did come back with more information, so apparently everybody in this town is just like full of good information.
That's an impressive gather information check, I have to say.
They found out that the ship they were going to is gone.
He left without him.
The lieutenant left without them because Whisper and Limper have come to town. And they almost stopped the ship from leaving. We find out later on that 19 people from the Black Company were killed.
It was probably
at first
more
it was
than
like
that.
20 or 25, but then I think it gets a little nailed down by someone that was there.
We get more information later on to kind of refine the information that we're getting.
Well,
yeah, it's a nice little touch. Either way, 20, 25, maybe less, maybe more. But
but who did the Limper show up with?
What do you mean? Oh, wait, who?
The Limper showed up with 50 members of the Black Company in tow.
Right. And, they were
to attack the Black Company that was in Medenville. So more than
they
50
were magic
died,
to
or
make
more than
that.
20 died.
They were magic to make that happen, weren't they?
I don't know, man. I think it's pretty easy. It's the kind of thing where you just say, look, your fellows abandoned you to this fate. Like, don't you think that that's kind of dirty? They played you dirty. Don't you want some revenge? Let's go kill them.
Well, that might be true. I mean, we are kind
For
of
the
talking
newer
about
members,
the stars
for sure.
of the Black Company, though.
Well, they left Elmo behind.
Yeah, sure they did. That's right.
All right, so Kingpin and Asa return with the information. What is it that they bring back?
Oh, yeah, well, they traveled on land, I guess.
Oh, apparently the overland route is faster.
If you dog it, I mean, not dog it, I mean, if you doggedly pursue these guys over land, you can make it in a couple days.
Well,
48 hours.
Shed says that they used to have a race from one city to the other in the old days, and it would take about 2 days. And until the new Duke took over and he canceled that, which, the new Duke had always struck me as a guy who's like completely lame, and this re-emphasizes the fact that he's a lame Duke.
I think it's the local prince that canceled it.
No, he said Duke. So it was the Duke in Juniper who canceled all activities.
Duke in Juniper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, whatever, that stuck in my mind because I thought he was lame before, not interactive, and he just was a live and let live. and he canceled it. Doesn't really matter, other than the fact that nobody saw this one coming because they thought the ship route was really the only effective route. But here the Limper is, here Whisper is, and they didn't even have to fly. They got here within 2 days, which nobody anticipated, and they've been causing all sorts of havoc. And they had this massive fight as they're scorching their way towards the lieutenant and the ship. The ship took off. Some cool Black Company guys got left behind. The traitor Black Company guys took a rough beating, probably because they were already tired. But I had this sense when they were talking about this, obviously the prince had his guards try to fend off this attack, and he probably got the worst of it all along the way. Do you guys have that opinion? Did they even take over the city? I don't think they said one way or the other.
I don't think that was their objective, first of all.
But
I think they were there literally just looking for the Black Company who had escaped to Medenville, and the Duke got a little prickly about them showing up in town, throwing their weight around, and then he came after them with his men.
The prince.
Great, the prince.
So, okay. Well, I wasn't sure, but obviously he tried to defend the city. It didn't go well for the prince and his guard and his guardsmen.
We don't have a real good idea of how badly it went for them, other than there was a pretty bad fire down at the wharf. That's it. And some people died.
Now we forgot to mention that Shed also went and was checking stuff out also.
We didn't forget, but it's okay.
Well, okay. Well, do you not want to say anything about that?
No. That's fine. They send Shed out. That's great. You know, they need more information. Yes, as you say, they send Shed out. He volunteers, by the way.
Right. So him and Ace are really stepping up.
So it's after sunset when Shed finally returns. The lieutenant took the ship and 25 men and left. The probably 19 or so didn't make it back onto the ship, and they were subsequently murdered by the Limper and the rest of the Black Company that showed up under the Limper's tutelage, who knows.
Leadership.
Goblin and Pawnbroker show up right about this time also.
They had followed Shed back. They saw him dicking around in town, and they were like, hey, that guy, we know that guy. And so they followed him, and they...
So they obviously didn't make it aboard all. Well, Goblin, yeah, so they weren't with them at the time. So they didn't make it on the ship.
Goblin had made it onto the ship, and like a good soldier, he volunteered to jump off of the ship and to sneak back into town and make sure that Croker and company could learn what happened.
Well, to look for the lost ones and also to intercept Croker and company before they walked into a trap. Yep.
Right. So Otto and Kingpin are set to go get horses and provisions because they are pretty well aware now that they have to ditch. They have to get out of town.
Pawnbroker was pretty cut up when he arrived with Goblin, but he gave some pretty good intel that Croker and company didn't otherwise have.
Shaky gave it to him before he tried to kill him.
Yep. And
what is it?
Shaky was a sergeant, but the biggest thing here, the surprise was that the Taken, they're not here at the ladies' orders. They've gone off the reservation, as it were. They were ordered to go all the way back to the Barrowlands. Oh, sorry, we can find out later. They were ordered to go someplace else. The Taken were ordered to go someplace else, and they are here to pursue some, their own ends or their own agenda. And Croker interprets
revenge.
Croker interprets that in the meaning of revenge. Absolutely.
Think about it. Like all the times that they've been mouthy to Whisper, all the things that they did to the Limper and the Black Company, the original book, like they didn't forget. It's just very apparent now that the Black Company's on the outs with the lady, and so they can take their revenge at this time. The Taken, they can do it. Absolutely. No, there will be no consequences, or fewer anyway. They might even get rewarded.
Good point.
Taking a little initiative and going out, going to do a little extra. And they get wherever they're supposed to go on time.
Well, the lady has never excelled about discipline when it came to the Taken, so they've often pursued ends as they saw fit without repercussions. That's the interpretation I had.
At the first book, it was like she reveled in the chaos that surrounded their infighting because it kept them weakened and distracted and in line. Smart.
So, smart. Well, either way, Croker realizes he has to get out of Dodge.
Shaky also lets everybody in on what happened, the goings on in Juniper.
Ooh, what happened?
Nothing good.
Nothing good for Juniper.
So the Juniper ended up just the way the captain said it was going to happen. The lady won. We won the day. We we're following the Black Company, and I guess they've separated now. So maybe we wouldn't use "we" if we were saying that. But the threat was taken care of, and then of course the looting and the bodies and the whole thing started.
The looting of the catacombs caused a little problem for the locals. Yeah,
it was.
What's that guy's name? The head of the
Hargador or something like that.
Hagedorn. Hargadon. And he is the head of the what?
Custodians of the Dead.
So Hagedorn.
Let's just say the big H.
Hargadon, the head of the Custodians of the Dead, led the revolution and rebellion himself, and from Shaky's information, we learned that Juniper was essentially destroyed.
Well, it's kind
of
funny.
Of course, Shed's there, and he hears this, and he's thinking about all his loved ones.
Sal?
Or so to speak. Yeah, Sal.
His cousin who ran the Lily, all of his old customers, his mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His home. Basically.
Burned, probably destroyed. Yeah,
destroyed.
Well, they said. I mean, what Shaky's report was that the Black Company had holed themselves up in not the Citadel, Duratil, and then the lady was dealing with that for a while, and then she just lost her patience and leveled all of the city. It's scary, but at the same time, they're like, "Oh well, we'll sit here until they calm down." Okay, I'm tired of the chanting, so she wipes out the city. But.
I don't imagine that she destroyed it completely, but I also imagine that she did enough damage and she, affected the deaths of enough people that their societal collapse is imminent.
There's nothing there worth keeping, and I'm sure they'll, exist in some form and capacity. But the Black Company lost 600 of their troops at the time, is what Shaky had reported.
And then Shaky tries to kill Pawnbroker and comes close to succeeding, I think.
He's cut up pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Croker asks about Elmo, but Shaky knew nothing, wasn't asked by Pawnbroker, so there's no new information there. So the plan, as it stands, is to ride south, catch up with the ship, and get out. They have 50 silver to their name that was delivered by Goblin from Raven's hoard on the ship. But even with that amount of money, which is that's a lot of money, Croker said that they're going to make it on a prayer. And then Shed's like, "Hey, I got some money. I can go get it."
Yeah, and then Asa says, "I got money too. I'm happy to share it."
That is so out of character for Asa, but Asa does copy what Shed is doing.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's true, but I also think Asa's picking his side.
He's doing exactly what he did with Craig back in the day, right? He's buying influence and protection.
He's trying to give some reason for Croker and company to take them with him because he figures he is doomed no matter where he goes. And
I would get clear of the Black Company if I were him as soon as I could, personally. But maybe he likes Shed enough that he wants to stick to his side.
That might be true. If you think about it, that's probably the only person he knows and understands and can relate to.
Shed joined the Black Company.
Like join?
Yeah. Welcome to the Black Company.
Yeah.
Shook his hand.
I kind of expected that might happen, that Shed would join the Black Company. He seemed like a guy that was ruining his life, and the only people to hang out with are the people that are basically ruining their own lives also.
Well, besides Raven, he's the only person that we've seen join the Black Company. Actually, seen their life and the conditions that they were living in and the things that they had done. He's the best example of the type of person to join the Black Company that we have yet gotten. And it makes really, really good sense. He's got nowhere to go. Nothing. I mean, nowhere. And he's now he's got this itch. He wants to cause damage to the people that destroyed Juniper.
Well, I don't think it's just vengeance. I also think it's kind of this moral righteousness, that this moral leaf that he's overturned on himself. And I kind of have this sense that shit.
When do you think he actually started believing that way? It obviously wasn't when he was taking that one lady to the Black Castle.
No, I think it's
Or when he was killing his cousin.
when he fled town. And do you remember when he was talking to Bullock when Bullock was in prison, and he manned up, he had his courage, and then he was talking to Bullock about, like, this is something I have to solve. Like, we can't allow this to go on. And Bullock even bought on board with Shed's newfound, I wouldn't say piety, but newfound
sense of purpose.
Sense of purpose. Very good. Very good way to say it. So Shed is turning over, and he has nowhere to go, but he's got something to drive him, and he's no longer cowardly. He's no longer running. He's trying to do the right thing, and he's trying to be part of something bigger than just himself, because he has nowhere else to go. And I don't know if it's desperation, but it seems good. And this kind of brings full circle to where, Croker kept all of his stories in line from the beginning, because he's like, Shed will one day be important. And I think we're finally starting to see Shed is becoming important.
Shed and Asa depart to go and get their belongings because they're going to all leave together. It is expected that they will not return by most of the Black Company.
Because they're just going to coward and skip out?
I think that would be the expectation from most people. I don't think Croker thinks so, but he's actually counting on Asa not coming back.
I don't think Croker believes any one of them are going to come back. Either they're going to get caught.
He just joined the Black Company.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Shed has a very well-deserved reputation for being a self-serving coward. And it's hard to wash that away in people's minds, especially Croker's, because Croker has known him pretty much longer and better than anyone here.
Didn't you just say Croker thought he turned a leaf? And, I mean, you're kind of burying your own thesis here.
No, he would either get caught or he would run. Both options are equal in Croker's mind right now.
Chapter 47, The Inn on the Run. 10 miles south of Medenville, Shed overtakes the Black Company, much to the surprise of everyone. He's got Bullock with him, but there's no sign of Asa. Bullock looks a little bit beat up. Worse for wear.
Shed used some of his money to make sure that Bullock was, so he could bribe the guards and get Bullock out of the, get him out
Bought
of
his
prison.
freedom. Yeah.
Everything is going pretty bad, and any guard is like, I'll take a couple extra bucks, I'm sure.
Right, exactly.
And Bullock, knowing things the way they are, is pretty much on board also.
Sure, why not? I think the part that he's most pleased about is that Asa didn't return. He's counting on Asa doing something for the future. So it's only a little while later. I think they said it took them 5 hours to get back to town the last time. So something comparable to that now. They're back out at that inn, and they've plotted and they've planned. And then in the middle of the night, they sneak in with the help of Silent, who silenced the animals, and they take over that inn. They get the proprietor up, and they sit him down for a talk.
This is the same inn that they just left.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah.
They ran away. They thought they were never going to see him again. Got past them.
Yeah, it's like 24 hours. They went all
They got all their cattle back. They put the dogs back where they belong. Put the cart back in. And then the Black Company shows up with more people.
Jeez, man. How ironic,
I really like this scene. I mean, you got to think the innkeeper is like, all right, I'm doomed. These rough characters are immediately back. Like, he fled. The innkeeper fled into the forest. The Black Company left, and he's like, okay, it's safe to go back now. And like the very next morning, while they were sleeping, the Black Company is back, and they take over the inn. And the innkeeper, you can just tell, but he plays it cool. I got to give him that credit. He plays it very cool.
He does play it cool, and when Croker is explaining the situation to him, that they are going to have to stay here for a little while, and no one can leave, sorry, he says to Croker, oh, you're waiting for somebody. It's like, yes, he is. So we have a scene that's essentially a MacGyver or an A-Team montage.
Oh, I love those. Those are
I do too. They're always very satisfying. And that's what's happening here. They're laying an ambush. They're expecting to be chased out of town by one of the Taken. They don't know which one, maybe even both. Hopefully not. But they're using magic. They're setting up weapons. They're setting up hiding spaces. They're setting booby traps, all in preparation to ambush one or both of the Taken.
Well, the innkeeper, he was obviously very skeptical all the way up until this point, but he levels with Croker, or they come to an understanding. And he said, well, my brother was actually in the king's, or the prince's guard, and he goes into the story about how he died horribly.
An animal of some kind was sicked on him through sorcery.
And he said, that's who we're waiting for. And he's like, I'm in.
Mm-hmm. But he wants to send his children and his wife back out into the forest. And Croker's like, no sweat, let's do that. So they do. They send the children and the wife away, and Silent goes with them. And when he returns, he brings back a hawk that he has just tamed. And they're going to use that as aerial reconnaissance, essentially. So they're not surprised by the arrival of the Taken.
I'm jazzed. I'm jazzed about this. I'm getting excited by the moment, because the entire time, I had no idea what Croker was actually planning until he levels it out right now that we're gonna ambush one of the Taken.
Do what no one's been able to do before. Okay, so it becomes clear that Croker needs some sleep. Everybody's taking turn. It's his turn, as it were, to get some rest. And as soon as he goes to lie down, the lady comes to him in the dream. Straight away, Croker snitches. He's like, Whisper and the Limper are down here and not wherever it is that you told them to go. And she's like, wait a minute, I sent them to the Barrowlands. They're not at the Barrowlands? It's like, nuh-uh.
Well, it wasn't snitching as much as it was a tactical distraction, because he wanted to keep the lady off guard and agitated, so she wouldn't be focusing on who he was and what his intentions were.
He doesn't want her to know where he is.
But he tells her right after that.
Well, they're planning the ambush, I guess, is really what they're trying to hide.
I think that's what he's trying to hide the most. He's like, he goes through the different things he doesn't want her to find out, but she can't find this out. And, the Whisper situation, or the Taken situation.
Well, he tells her that straight up. Your dogs are off the leash. Come and get them, as it were. Or at least punish them later, whatever.
Well, the situation that is going to be happening.
The ambush.
The ambush, yeah. He doesn't want the ambush to be known, because she can still alert whoever it is and prevent it from happening.
Can she?
I don't know. That's kind of I think, Croker's expectation.
I'd say absolutely she can. Think about how many times she did it to
Where is she?
One-Eye or Goblin en route.
She's not here.
She's 2 days away.
So what's she going to do?
She's going to telepathically tell whoever to stop. Don't get ambushed on.
Don't get ambushed on. Okay, well. She asks Croker where he is, and he does give her a mental image of the location. But this is partly due to the fact that he wants her to find the amulet that Shed had been wearing. He wants her to find that so that she can destroy it, because I think it's outside of their abilities.
Well,
they can't destroy it.
Well, I got to get my hats off to Croker here. Big picture thinking. Supposedly, his ambush against the Taken fail. The lady still knows, one, where this new castle is, and two, this hint of these serpent medallions that she needs to keep an eye on, to track down, and to focus on. So, from a command perspective, you're trying to work two sides here, but even if they get destroyed, the greater thing has to get destroyed. So I think he did. From Glen Cook's writing here was fantastic, covering all those bases. Good job, Glen.
He's a good plotter.
Yes.
His plots are pretty seamless, in my opinion. Okay, so One-Eye busts in while he's having this conversation with the lady, and he's like, "Who you talking to, Croker?" And he's awake. Croker's awake. He's not actually dreaming. There have been some question about whether he was asleep or awake in the past when he's having these conversations with the lady. I'm guessing it's kind of like a midway point between sleep and dream, because he's speaking out loud and can be overheard.
Kind of what I was saying, a little bit of both.
Okay, so he's roused because the Limper is on his way. The Limper has been spotted. I think he's 6 miles away.
Oh, but you're missing the best part.
I'm not missing
No,
it.
you're missing it, because this is like...
No, I'm not.
You are.
I'm
This is one of the
missing
best things. Come on, let me have my moment.
Go ahead, but I'm not missing it.
Okay, fine, you're not missing it. But so One Eye has come into the conversation. Croker gets fully awake, and then One Eye's like, "Why were you talking? Or who are you talking to?" And he's like, "I was talking to my girlfriend." And then that's when the lady leaves, but she heard it. And he said she leaves with a sense of like, what is it? Amusement and annoyance? No, amusement and irritation. So she heard him say that. And I guarantee you she's touched. On some level, she's touched.
Because she has no self-esteem? Is that
No,
what it is?
I think it's because there's a lot of people out. Everybody wants to be wanted. And he...
I remember
he
you
said-
said that in the Black Company, too.
He said my girlfriend and giggled.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird that a guy
I think
would
he's like a
giggle.
little bit druggied, you know what I mean?
That might be true.
I think it might be something to that effect.
Come on, man. I'm the only one romantic here. That's hard to believe, but I can't...
It is hard to believe.
Between these two?
I mean, I've talked to your wife, so it's real hard to believe.
I
but-
like that, and she was touched by it, and there's that connection there, and I'm jazzed.
Great. So the limper is incoming. He's 6 miles away, and as he's being essentially dragged to work by One Eye, Croker realizes why the Taken are down here. It's not just for revenge. They're looking for something specific.
He had this epiphany that they're looking for the trunk of papers that Whisper had. And I don't know how much talking had been going on between Whisper and the limper, but apparently they're in cahoots here.
Remember, she suborned him in the first book.
So Whisper had the limper's true name. Is that what you're suggesting? Because she had the papers.
No, I'm suggesting that the Whisper and Limper, like, cahootsing is probably fairly deep.
Oh. Well, they may have been voluntarily in cahoots, but if Whisper had the papers with the limper's true name, maybe she had already dominated him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, well, who knows? We don't know. I don't know.
But it also has the lady's true name also, right?
Which they may not be able to read.
It was encoded in the papers.
It was encoded and it's in Kelatur.
Nonetheless.
Yeah, no, hey.
That's
but
that's
I
something.
assume Whisper is aware that the name is in there because Bowman's wife knew that the name was in there, and then the papers went missing that night, and I assume that whoever took them knew perfectly well what Bowman's knew, or at least that the information was in there. So it's a fair assumption, I'd say.
Well, realistically speaking, I estimate that from the notification that the limper was on his way, they have about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the speed of the horses.
Great. So some quick modifications are made to the plan. They don't have enough bodies, so they're like, hey, those guys that can't leave the inn, the northerners, they need to do us a favor if they want to live through the day.
Right. It's made to believe that, oh, you're given this choice if you want to, live.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
I like
false
that.
choice.
oh, they didn't need
It
much.
didn't really feel like a choice.
Oh, they didn't need much convincing. They knew their lives were at stake, but they were like, all right, fine, whatever I need to do to get the hell out of here. And running seemed better than staying, so they were on board.
All right, chapter 48, The Inn, Ambush. What?
Well, we did mention that Asa was with the limper.
At a prescribed moment, the Black Company roars out of the inn, heads for the barn, grabs animals in a wagon, and tear off down the road as though startled. The limper is in pursuit with men from the Black Company, and he is determining the pace. So what we've got is the ambush unfolding. There are cues along the way that I found confusing, like the red flag going by, but that's just an indication that it was very well planned. Like, somebody disrupted the horses and the carts. I think it was One Eye jumped off of the wagon in order to get clear for when that happened, and then they slipped away in order to ambush the limper. It's a big mess. I thought it was a big mess, personally. It was hard to read.
It was. I did like some of the setup that was going in as far as like, oh, who was it that was sitting in the pig pen and
Pawnbroker.
yeah, pawnbroker, and they made it so that he looked like a pig in there.
Yeah.
And was that where the
Ballista.
the ballista, yeah,
Yeah.
was sitting? And yeah, I guess he was going to fire it at some time.
Well,
Hopefully, it wouldn't have to.
Croker didn't want him in combat because he's really wounded.
Right.
So they had him kind of hidden and off to the side, and they gave him a ballista to protect himself or to assist with, but he was hoping that Pawnbroker wouldn't get involved in the combat at all.
Right. I like how it says that Goblin cast a weak spell to make him look like a hog.
Didn't have to try hard.
I guess first level, something like that.
I don't know. A little illusion. Little illusion.
So, like, there was that's where, like, all of it just started spreading apart, and until it gets put back together, this little puzzle in this chapter, it doesn't, I think you guys said, he does a good job at planning out what's going on. It was clunky, though.
It was clunky. It took me, I had to read it very, very carefully the second time to understand what was actually happening, but it doesn't matter. The long and short of what happens is their plan goes off fairly without a hitch. They're expecting to wound and injure the Limper and his men, who are members of the Black Company, and then the plan would require them to retreat back to the inn to lick their wounds, them being the Limper and his men being wounded, licking wounds. And then they would spring the actual ambush and hopefully kill the Limper.
Well, it was kind of like a double ambush. So they would pretend to flee and then like ambush and pretend to run, but also circle around back to the inn and then ambush them again.
So do you remember I think it was the last episode, we were talking about Silent, and like maybe Silent's more powerful than we think, because the plan entailed Silent raining some magic down during the first half of the ambush, and Croker said that he was supposed to just hit and run, but it went on and on and on. And he didn't expect Silent to be able to hold off the Limper, but when it came time, Silent showed back up at the right place at the right time. Fewer men than he was supposed to have, but he took on the Limper.
That's pretty amazing. And I was thinking about that also when the Taken at the time, Whisper and Journey and the Limper were back in Juniper, that he was singled out and taught some spells, at least one spell, by the Taken. And I'm like, they're not going to waste time with, your second or your third rank wizards. They're going to go for your best that you have. So, yes, I was always in the impression he was the most powerful, and I'm really impressed that he was able to go toe-to-toe with the Limper even for a short while.
Well, the Limper is being carried back to the inn, and I think he's being carried by the innkeeper and
Asa.
who?
No, it's not.
No, Asa was tied to his saddle.
That's right.
Asa was tied to the saddle. Shed looked like he should be dead already. The innkeeper was all beat to heck and rough.
But just beat to heck. Yeah, he was just roughed up because apparently they didn't ever view him as a threat.
Yeah, so they just beat him really good. And the Limper...
He was like too fat, couldn't run. They just captured me.
The most amazing thing was like the Limper was like unconscious and he had his right arm severed. Apparently somewhere between the elbow and the shoulder. Most of his arm was gone.
Yeah. But they try to get the Limper inside, but the Limper comes to, and he says, "No, trap." And that is when the wizards, One Eye and Goblin, give everything they have to attack
everybody.
The Limper.
The dogs lump to the battle. The wizards go in. Croker charges. Everybody who has any stake in the game charges right then. And
they cannot kill him. It's amazing. He is tough as nails.
I'm like in awe. He's like, he only has one arm. And Croker goes for like the stub of his right arm. Like, why'd you go for that side? Hit the other arm, the only good one he has.
I don't know why he did it, but the Limper's hand seems to be imbued with powerful magic, because he gives a glancing blow to Croker's stomach, and it causes he gets Croker's out of the fight. He's vomiting. I mean, he's lucky he's not dead, because every time the Limper lands a punch on a dog or a person, the person or dog dies.
Well,
just dead.
I thought that,
except for the wizards.
Yeah,
he can't take out the wizards, which does make some sense.
I thought that too. Like every time he hits a dog, the dog Mastiff, not just whatever.
Yeah, not just a little.
It wasn't a Corky or anything. So yeah,
no, these massive hunting dogs.
Yeah, every time he hits a dog, they die, and thankfully there's a lot of them. And he punched One Eye. I'm like, oh my God, how could One Eye take a punch? He's like 100 years old, man.
Yeah. Well, they flee. The wizards flee from the Limper, and the Limper gives chase, and he heads straight to the pig pen.
Goblin leads him right to the pig pen, baby.
And he gets nailed. twice,
Thwomp.
I think.
He
Yeah.
does twice. Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah,
One went right through him, and then the other one like went through his shoulder or something
no,
like that.
you guys, man,
Pierced his breastbone.
do it justice. Goblin leads.
You do it justice.
Goblin leads the crow. So Goblin leads the limper like directly towards the pig pen, and like Goblin like sprawls out in the mud because he's like, this is one of those things where like, God, pawnbroker, you better have my back on this one. So the limper just like stands above this goblin, sprayed out in the mud, and he's about to like destroy him with his one hand, and that's when pawnbroker unleashes the ballista that Croker didn't think was going to be needed. Splits him right down the middle.
Pierces his breastbone, and then pawnbroker takes his sweet time reloading, and thwomp hits him again. And this one goes right through him. Still not dead.
The dogs remaining went through for his throat.
Still not dead.
And
Still not dead.
anybody who can stand rallies.
Right. So we have the mop up, as it were. The fat man tells most of the story about what happened. It was Bullock and Shed that pulled the limper off of his horse, and then Bullock took his arm off. Bullock also got his head cleaved in, so he's dead, gone.
Yeah, dead,
Shed's still
just like
alive, but he's
dying.
barely alive. He's dying.
Yeah.
You
He's dying.
Between the two of them, they killed 4 people.
Yep, you found out that it was actually Bullock who took off the limper's arm, and I'm like, how in the heck did he take off the arm? Because you have these guys and these dogs hacking away on this thing that's got spears in him for like until they run out of energy, and it's still alive. It's like at that point they can't kill it; it's still got the spark of life, and then Bullock took off one of his arms.
I assume he also wields a hanger, kind of like the lieutenant.
My God.
Just thwack. I don't know.
Great job, Bullock, man. That was amazing. What a way to go, too.
Maybe he had a little bit of religion behind him. I don't know.
He certainly had some revenge to take. Yeah. So,
but seriously,
yeah.
Do you know how much? I mean, yeah, it was.
But when they take 4 guys out, they're taking out the Black Company guys.
They've been turned, though. They've been turned.
That's true. Yeah.
And they were probably
fight for the life.
And they were exhausted.
The Black Company guys, yeah, they haven't had any rest.
Yep.
They rode 2 days straight and then part of another day.
And fought all day in the city and then rode all the way here.
That's no fun. That's no fun.
And
all right,
died.
are we? What else?
That's all. As far as the fight.
I don't know. Really cool. What a way to go, Bullock. Seriously, I know you died. I was really rooting for you, buddy, but what a way to go. Taking on the limper. I don't know what kind of weapon he had, but he took off one of his arms. This whole scene, everything. The ambush, taking out the limper. I never saw this coming. Loved it.
I enjoyed moments in this when like Ace is trapped in the blackberries.
And the dogs
and
are surrounding him.
Yeah, the dogs are like getting at him. He was trying to hide, and Croker's like, "What should we do?" And One Eye's like, "Well, let's stick some javelins in him. Let's kill him."
Shed doesn't want him to die.
And I like that.
Yeah.
Shed's dying. And he's all, "No, he's my friend."
Literally, Shed's dying breath was like, "Let him go, Croker. He was my friend."
Exactly, and like moments like this I like about this chapter, but I think like the clunkiness and what I really don't like is when an important character like Shed dies off screen. Basically,
Yeah.
I don't like hearing about them being a hero if they are a hero, because we've done all of his. Is this really more for the end of the book? This is where I kind of had a problem with the story, or at least this chapter, with this reading, I should say. And it's just that, we've spent some time with this character, so much so that I thought he deserved a little bit better. I don't want to say he had to live, but, just doing the whole thing off screen really was disappointing for me. I like this part. I like he gets to be like, awesome until the end, at the end, but it's waning. Well, we don't even get to see it for a moment.
Well, I will admit it would have been nice and entertaining if we had seen that first ambush with Silent and Shed and Bullock when they ambushed, the Taken and his men, or sorry, the Limper and his men the first time. But we didn't get that. We just got the recap at the end, so we didn't get to see what actually happened. And
Kingpin died too, didn't he?
Kingpin died by getting trampled. But he said he gave better than he got before he died.
Right.
So, and that was just, it was a recap. We didn't get to see that play out. And I wonder if Glen Cook was, he did it for a reason, and I think that was for a story build-up reason. But it would have been nice.
Well, my point, though, is that so much of this fight is like, all right, he takes a lot of damage. He doesn't have an arm. He takes a lot of damage. They can't kill him. But it also felt very obvious what was going to happen. He's getting, all but dead at the very end, and we got like 3 continuous scenes of him taking damage, but not like the very beginning. And I don't know, maybe Croker should have been in on that one.
Well, we've also seen him do this before. Like, do you remember how hard it was for Raven just to take him down in Black Company? He took arrow after arrow after arrow, and the only reason they kept him down was because, Raven got onto him and was, keeping him full of holes and pinned. Tough as nails, that guy.
I understand, though, as far as the writing, keeping Croker as the narrator is kind of one of the, I guess, is the reason why I'll concede what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, what about Shed, doing that Hollywood death scene?
What do you mean? I'm not following you, to be honest.
Where he gets to have like a clean death, where he gets to say his last wishes and he gets to have redemption, and it was just a Hollywood thing.
No, man, it's uplifting. It's uplifting.
That's what Hollywood thinks.
Well, that's how I was trained to think, but man, that was beautiful. Seriously, everything Shed had went through, all his foibles, his weaknesses,
messy,
his fallacies.
It's really, really messy. And Shed would have been punched full of holes and chopped to pieces. And
the thing is like we're robbed of the Shed Asa adventures going forward now.
Not Asa. Asa's alive.
Well, Asa's still alive, thankfully.
Asa's alive.
But I don't know. I just feel like Shed and Asa should have been like they go off on their own. And,
right.
Whether they adventure or not,
Well, have I ever told you how much I liked the end of the movie Prometheus?
No, I don't know anything about.
I hated
Prometheus.
that movie because it was the people in it were really, really stupid. But at the end, you've got the woman who's struggled and survived, and she has her own spaceship, and she has the head of an android AI under her arm, and she goes out into space on adventures. And I'm like, that is the best ending you could ask for, other than A Boy and His Dog, which that's the best ending of any movie ever. I didn't like Shed dying the way that he did, with where he gets to say his final thoughts, and I don't like that stuff. That to me, that's Hollywood, and it's just bullshit. I don't like it.
I disagree. He gets to die as
I know.
He gets to die a saint, and he gets to die in inspiration.
Well, it is inspirational to Croker.
Yeah.
And he is the narrator, and maybe he's glossing it up a little bit more. Maybe that's Croker's fault. More than it is the story's fault. Glen Cook has a real good gimmick going on here because, I don't want to write this scene. I'll just make sure Croker's not in it.
I think it's brilliant, but we may disagree on this, but I love this entire section, this entire chapter. Loved it.
Chapter 49, On the Move. So Croker is digging the ruby eyes out of the pendant that Shed had worn.
Does he think that it's the ruby eyes of the pendant that is the
active ingredient, as it were?
The active ingredient, yeah, sure.
Yeah, because when they
Castle.
found quote-unquote Raven's body with the heart missing and all that, the pendant was still there. Remember, Hagup had stolen it, but the eyes were missing.
Oh, I don't know if... Did they really make that explicit at that moment?
Yes.
It was heavily inferred. I'm trying to just remember.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I figured that out. But I was trying to remember the name of the ranger that got conned into wearing it.
It was
a hunter, not a ranger, but it was a hunter.
It was something silly.
Mole. His name is Mole.
Oh,
Moleskin.
Moleskin, yeah.
Moleskin. All right, so Croker's digging those eyes out for the purpose of them, the rubies, to become the limper's last meal.
So the castle will build inside of him.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan. You don't get to see what you were asking. You know, what happens when the Black Castle gets a hold of a Taken? We don't get to see it, but it happens here. It happens here. So they drag the limper around to the front of the inn.
Mm-hmm.
They force those rubies down his throat. Croker does this, I think with Silent. And then they hang him from a tree.
Now remember.
And they leave him.
Yeah.
Because they can't kill him.
Exactly.
They cannot kill him.
Come on, guys. This is such the most beautiful, like, revenge, like, spit in your face scene. I can't even think of a better one. This was so awesome.
The expectation is that those rubies will take root in his heart and kill him, and then the lady will be forced to destroy her own tool.
Yep, that's right, buddy. That's right.
Permadeath. This is like playing on hardcore, you know?
Well, you don't think she'll be able to snuff out his life before then?
I don't think she succeeds in getting to him because when she contacts Croker later, she says, "You will rue this murder," meaning that he is dead.
Well, either way. Right?
Either way.
Yeah.
What? Either way what?
Either way, he was going to die, whether it be by the lady's hand or the castle.
I think the dying by the way of the castle is much worse.
You don't think the lady would be a lot more pissed off if she had to do him in?
I don't know, because you remember she's kind of got a soft streak. You know,
Well,
she convinced him to. She convinced. We don't ever find out.
Yeah, we don't find out, but
we
she
can't find out.
She either kills the limper.
Well, we do in conversation.
She either kills the limper after he becomes a castle, or she has to kill him before he becomes a castle. Either way, she has to kill him.
Well, I mean, either way, he dies. But I think if you have to do it yourself, it's very upsetting.
Maybe not for the lady.
I'm sorry.
Maybe not.
It was brilliant.
Maybe it's a lethal situation.
Absolutely brilliant, because they couldn't kill him. So they forced the lady to kill him for them.
So they're only 20 miles south of the inn when the lady contacts Croker one more time. And she says, like I mentioned, "You will rue this murder." So I assume that the limper is dead at this point, however he died. And Croker says, "No, I'm not going to rue it. And if you irritate me too much, I'm going to learn Telekur. And ask Whisper what she lost in the Forest of Cloud."
Well, okay, so I have to ask you guys, I mean, I don't know how the lady would comprehend this threat from Croker.
Well, Telekur would be a hint.
Well, it's an ancient language spoken by the Taken, right?
I assume from the lady's timeline, right?
I assume it's
language.
a language that she knew.
Yes.
If her name is written in that, and nobody knows how to say it, speak it.
Yeah, but that alone, I mean, I understand.
Well, then that's the hint, right?
What is your question?
The question is, why is that? How would the lady know that's relevant?
Because she doesn't know right now, but she's gonna ask Whisper what she lost in the Forest of Cloud, and when she finds out, she will then understand the threat.
Yes. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but she paused when he said, "Don't make me learn your ancient language." Like, that meant something, and there was that connection I didn't get. I understood it from Croker's perspective, but then after that, Croker went in and said, "Ask Whisper what all this means." So maybe that was how he made this roundabout explanation and threat to the lady.
Yeah, I mean, I was already satisfied with the information because we have it all. So to me, it flowed well enough. I didn't have any hangups with it. I understood, and I figured that she would get it eventually when she asked Whisper that question, which she's bound to do because Whisper's not in the Barrowlands where she belongs.
Oh, she's definitely going to get raked over the coals.
Oh man, I wonder if she'll survive. The lady only has one Taken now.
Yep, no, two. She has Journey and Whisper.
Oh, I forget about Journey because he's such a non-entity.
He's so lame, right?
He's he's not an entity. I mean, he's just not a thing, you know. All he did was crash. He crashed over and over again.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, he just kept on getting one flying carpet over another and crashing them.
He stole the Limper's carpet and crashed it. Like, damn you, Journey. All right, so 3 months later to the day, the lady contacts Croker yet again. And she tells him that the threat of the Black Castle no longer exists. Her husband is completely cut off from his followers and his supporters. He has no way out without actually being disinterred. And there's an army, a standing army in the Barrowlands to prevent that from happening.
So, why do you think the lady contacted him after all this time? As in, because she wants.
It took her 3 months. It took her 3 months to get rid of all the Black Castles in the sea.
I'm sorry, it took me.
Also,
Well, go ahead, Yul.
no, it's all right.
No, I just had this epiphany that she wanted to tell him so he could put it in the annals. That's it.
She says as much.
Yeah.
She says she's going to continue to contact him to update the annals with the expansion of her empire because it amuses her. I think it's not her amusement that we're after. I think it's she valued him as an analyst. She wanted him to be her analyst, Croker. But, you know, she can't convince him to come back. She warns him, stay away from the girl. He's like, what girl?
Oh yeah, he tries to play it, but
what are you
she
talking
obviously
about?
knows everything now.
She says that he cast a wider trail than he imagined. And she is privy to that information now. She says she'll be in touch.
Do you think it was the innkeeper? The fat guy?
I think that I believe it was Elmo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She said she had interviewed lots of Black Company members, including Elmo, who is probably most privy to all of Croker's knowledge.
Elmo should have known almost everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Elmo should have known almost everything. All right, so they make it to Chimney. They arrive.
3 months.
The lieutenant's there. The ship is there.
Woo-hoo!
All their money is there.
Reunion!
Darling is there. But Raven isn't there.
It's just you.
That very morning, the morning of their arrival, Raven was in a public bath.
Yeah.
Dude, you talk about a Hollywood. I call shenanigans on this scene. That's what I call.
I hated
There's
this.
a Hollywood
I
shenanigans.
hated this too. This is again because Croker wasn't there to witness it. I mean, this is stupid. It can't be real, right? I mean, I don't want to be all like, you know, like a little kid saying, "No, this guy can't die" or anything like that. But it's really, seriously.
Raven was in a public bath. He slipped on a marble diving platform. He struck his head and drowned in the pool.
Nobody was around?
Darling saw the body. Darling believes the story. The pyre was burned. The lieutenant saw the body, recognized Raven. No one believes Croker when he says, nah, he's faking it.
It's hard to believe, man. Seriously, it is hard to believe.
Glen Cook wrote it in such a way. He said that fate is fickle, something to that effect. And that was my thought closing. It was like, man, how unlucky can you get? It's almost like Opon was involved, you know? But it was the lady and not the Lord, because the lady was cruel in all business. And this just strikes me as it's just like you can't control everything. As much as you plan and you plot and you're a mastermind and you're skilled and you're talented, you can get hit by a car.
Yep.
You know?
Or lightning, or doesn't matter what, but yes. And so
that's what happened to Raven.
I don't know if I really want to read a story where you can tear a meniscus walking up a curb, you know?
Can you do that?
Sure. Anybody could. You could break. I broke my foot walking on a garden hose.
Did you
and
really?
It balloon. Yeah, swear to God. I mean, I kept walking on it, you know, for like hours. Oh my God. And it's like a garden hose, but you know, your bones in your foot. There's so many of them. It's not hard to break them. It only takes a few pounds of pressure.
You just tweak it just in that right way, and then you're.
But we can all understand that, but I don't need my superhero Raven falling victim of the same thing an 80-year-old does in the bathtub.
It was very disappointing. I was disappointed.
I was too, and it's like Shed's ultimate demise, or at least not seeing him sack up one more time. This Raven bit, there's still good moments in this last reading. I really enjoyed when Goblin and One Eye saw each other again. You know, they're like, there's camaraderie. We saw a bunch of it throughout, but man, that's well, why wasn't it Darling that did that? You know.
Well, on some levels,
she's that important. So fate isn't fickle, obviously.
The next book is named after her. So
all right, but you know what I mean. Well, if you wanted to do that, why didn't you do that with Shed before something happened?
I think I know why it happened the way that it did, and it's because, well, what I think is that
is he trying to prevent making a Wolverine?
He didn't have anything left. There was nothing left for Raven to do. He did his job.
Yep.
He protected Darling. He kept her alive. He trained her. He set her up, and he got her into a position where she could get back with the Black Company. And now they're the champions of the White Rose. And he didn't need Raven anymore, so he killed him. And he did it in a way that reminds us that life is... It's a toss of the dice. It's, unfair sometimes. I didn't like it. I didn't like it as much as you don't like it. But Raven was done as a character. He wasn't needed anymore.
Well, it's just a stylistic problem, really. I have mostly with it. I really don't care when a character dies like that.
A good death of a character is great.
I think a good death
Bullock
is better.
Which we also didn't get to see. We just get to hear somebody talking about it, which I agree with Yule. I don't particularly care for that. I like to see the things. That book that Jill and I did, Leviathan's Wake, those guys had a terrible problem of showing us all the boring stuff. There was all this action going on, space battles taking place, and we'd be in this like prison cell with these people talking. It's like, this is the boring part, guys.
Well, just to I agree with everything you said, that Raven's purpose had run its course, where he fulfilled and everything else. But keep in mind, Raven was also a loner. He was always a loner. He always did whatever he wanted, and he never really fit into the group mentality. And so, moving forward, you need a group, you need a team, you need everybody to work together. And Raven didn't fit that mold. Raven didn't fit that mold anymore.
You're right. All right, so after the funeral, the burning of the pyre and Raven's body, Elmo and 70 of the Black Company arrive in town with the war chest. Having waited for the opportune moment when Journey, the ding-dong that he is, was distracted and he let slip, oh yeah, the rest of the Black Company's down in this particular city. They took their opportunity. They slipped away. So the Black Company is reinvigorated.
Yay!
I'm real happy to see the return of Elmo.
Yay! I was 100% convinced Elmo was dead.
I was too. And I know One Eye's going to be happy to see the war chest return.
And he's like, Elmo, oh yeah. I'm glad we got the money. Oh, and I'm glad you're happy, too. I'm glad you're here too, Elmo.
So we get kind of a recap of all of the travels and events of the last 2 years, which I assume is the duration of this book in total. A 2-year period of time. The Black Company traveled 4,000 miles. They went from the east side of the world to the west, or back, whatever, who cares, back and forth. And they are now, they found a new purpose in life, and they are now the champions of the White Rose. Below decks, in the captain's quarters, they raise a glass and toast to 29 years and the return of the comet.
Oh, so they just have to last this out for 29 more years.
That's when the comet returns, and that's when the prophecy says the White Rose will be able to defeat the lady.
Yeah. Croker was already 40 plus, so that's like 69 plus.
He said it earlier on that he didn't believe that he would make it to the end. He just didn't believe it as possible.
So pretty much every single character we know now, except for Darling, is probably going to be dead.
And the lady.
No, I exclude her because I put her in the realm of like One Eye, because One Eye can apparently live forever. I'm sorry, as a wizard,
Yeah, they live longer. We
yes,
get it.
wizards live longer, so I imagine the lady will still be there. But
the lady might be there right now, in fact, because Croker thought there was a hint of gold in the corner of his eye.
So
whatever. She's watching.
She's just like passively in there. I don't know.
I think she can kind of show up wherever she wants with Croker, at least, because she's proven that she can already do that. And I don't know that I mind. Croker said at some point that he felt that she still had a spark of goodness in her. That if left alone, maybe she would veer back towards the light and not the darkness.
Well, she said she would kill anybody that was hanging out with Darling.
She did say that.
Well,
So I really don't know if that matters anymore.
well, to bring it full circle, I mean, imagine what Shed did. Shed took that journey, and it bottomed out, and then he turned towards the light, and he died happily. And I think what Croker is imagining is that...
So Disney. Hey, no wonder you like it.
I love it. And given the right circumstances, the lady could do the same. You know, when she conquers everything and she fears no threats, then she could be benevolent and generous.
Oh, benevolent dictator.
The best form of government, in my opinion.
Yes. That's the end of the book.
I'll just dive right in there. I didn't see the end coming because
How could you?
no, I couldn't at all because it seemed like it left off in the middle of nowhere, and I guess it kind of still left off in the middle of nowhere. But with the death of the Limper, I never saw that coming, and that was just this really, really enjoyable event. It was satisfying. It really, really was.
What if he's in the third book and your mind is blown?
No way, man! Just don't blow for me because no
way, bro.
Come on, these guys. It was a small group of Black Company guys that took out the Limper. Come on, that's awesome. I didn't.
It seemed like it was Bullock and Shed that did
That's
it.
kind of true, also. Maybe I should just mourn that the fact Bullock died because he sounded like a great addition to the Black Company.
Jeez, I know. Like, he got involved with the Black Company, and the next thing you know, he's dead. Same with Shed. They both joined up and died immediately.
I do not like that part of it. I mean, I understand that's the way the cookie crumbles, but Bullock was just this beast. I mean, he would have been a great Black Company guy.
We never got to see him be a beast. We never got to see it. We only got to hear about it.
I mean, we all right. So you have your Hollywood endings that ATN doesn't like and that Phil's kind of down with, but that we didn't get that with Shed. You know, like if you're gonna just be throwing those all out, and Elmo and the chest of gold show up in the end, and Darling's there, and everybody but Raven's just there to make
you were there, and you were there. And you were there?
Yeah, that's the reason why Raven had to die, is so that you could throw that in, I assume that the guy would have just left,
Well,
purpose fulfilled, not needed anymore.
I'm gone,
right.
But
except he would have probably taken Darling with him. I mean, who's she more likely to go with? Raven, her surrogate dad, or the Black Company, her surrogate distant uncles that she barely remembers?
Maybe he offed himself then.
I don't think so.
Maybe that's what it was.
I don't think so.
He knew he had to die so she'd hang out with the Black Company.
I wonder how common that is. My grandma, she fell twice yesterday. Twice. In one day. She went to the hospital one time and then came back and fell again that night. But Raven? He doesn't fail balance checks? What the hell?
It's funny because we were talking about this recently. I fell and broke my wrist recently. And 1 week before that, I was teaching my children how to properly fall so you don't break your wrist. So Yes, and I had falling training, I've had all these other things, but boom, in that millisecond of decision making, I put my hand down and I broke my wrist.
Was this the same hand that got bitten by a snake?
Yeah, the same one. Yeah, my sacrificial hand.
Yep. Let's talk about the end. I mean, let's talk about being done, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have anything to add to this book?
This was a perfect Empire Strikes Back story because it literally leaves you hanging on what's going to happen next.
The gang is back together, mostly. A few notable omissions. The captain has died. Raven has died. I can't think of anybody else that I particularly was fond of that was in the Black Company that has died. Darling's back. They've got money. They've got a ship. They can go anywhere they want. They're free of the lady, except, of course, she'll probably be keeping tabs on them and maybe tracking them down. And the next book is called The White Rose, so I assume it's got something to do with Darling.
On Ascendancy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. 29 years. 29 years.
It's leading to a confrontation between the lady and Darling, and Croker is kind of stuck between the both of them. He's got his girlfriend, but he's also got his daughter figure.
Niece?
I'd call it daughter. Or
why?
Not daughter, or at least
daughter.
younger girl. Or sorry, maybe.
You should stop talking now. Honestly, you've messed that one up badly.
I did mess it up pretty badly, but no, I mean he loves Raven, and apparently he has a high affection for the lady also. So he's going to be stuck between the two. So is he going to be called into choosing one or the other? How is he going to play this?
Don't make me choose.
And who's he going to choose?
Yeah, well. Anyway, okay, so this book is done.